Hey y'all, it's Mallory with 5 Academy, and I'm here to tell you 5 strategies that helped me get a perfect score on my reading ACT. The most important tip I have, maybe make this 6 tips for completing the ACT, is to learn what works best for you. And the best way to do that is to take practice tests. 5 Academy offers tons of free practice tests on our website, so don't forget to check that out. My first strategy is passage glancing, and if you've heard it once, you've heard it a million times. But hey, it's important, so we're going to include it. So, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. You glance at the passage and the paragraph as a whole. You write down the emotions, relationships, anything that you think are important and valuable. Jot it down beside it so you can keep a clear train of thought. And also, you can refer back to things so you know where they are in the passage if the question asks about them. Second tip would be to look at the questions first. It'll give you a clear, focused reading to know what you're looking for. And also, it'll help you answer quick questions like vocab. It'll show you context clues, and you'll be able to easily answer it and find these questions. My third strategy is just to read the passage as a whole. Not many people are going to tell you this, but if you can read with a clear head and quickly, then this is the strategy for you. The best part about this is that if you can read and understand information quickly, then once you go to the questions, you don't have to flip back and forth. But I do suggest writing beside as you read so that you can, if you do have to look back, you're not digging for information still. And also, writing helps you keep a clear head and keep focused on what's going on. My fourth strategy would be to read the first sentence and the last sentence of every paragraph. I know this is a total 180 from what I just said, but hey, I still use this strategy even though a lot of passages I read fully. So, read the first sentence, read the last sentence, write quick notes beside it, go to the questions. Take maybe 1 to 2 minutes to do this, if that. And then that way you have a general idea of what's going on in every paragraph, and it's more structured than just passage glancing. My fifth and final tip for taking the ACT has 2 parts that go hand in hand. So the first would be try and read from the author's point of view, and the other being look at the type of article the author wrote. Both parts can be found in this little section above where the passage actually starts. It'll tell you why the passage was written, what it was pulled from, and the type of article it is. It's either prose fiction, social science, natural science, or humanities. Those are the 4 you'll always get. This little bar can tell you so much about author's intent, and that is a huge part of the ACT, and also answering these questions like an author would. Okay, guys, so we're going to start with our first thing of passage glancing. So take the time, pause your screen, and then go on and try and answer the questions. Time yourself with each strategy to see what works best for you. So this article as a whole is about the Big Bang Theory. And so I went on and highlighted that at the top just to make sure I knew my topic, I knew what was going on. The next words that I ended up highlighting were very high density and high temperature. High and very high were extreme words in my head, so I went on and highlighted them. The next section is a bracket of information about comprehensive explanation for the Big Bang Theory. And so instead of underlining everything on that list, I just bracketed the information to save time. The bottom part says insufficient, and so the word insufficient stuck out to me. And so since it stuck out, I went on and highlighted it. The next paragraph has a lot to do with what's in the bracket, but also towards the bottom, it says 2 major assumptions. And I went on and highlighted where those 2 major assumptions were. The next information that I thought was interesting was where it had a topic, a person, and a place. And so he had an experiment, and so that could be asked about in a question. The next thing that I noticed was the cosmic microwave background radiation discussed in the top of that paragraph. And since our entire article was about Big Bang and the bracket talks about the cosmic microwave background, I highlighted it. The next part was the timing and creation of how old the Big Bang Theory was and how old it puts our universe at. And since, again, the entire article is about the Big Bang Theory, this would be important information to know. The next bracket that I'd put is going to be about the large clouds that you see. And since it was another list, I bracket. All of my lists I always bracket to keep the information together. The last paragraph talks about dark matter, and towards the end, it talks about the expansion of the universe and how it is accelerating, an observation that is attributed to the dark matter, which is, again, highlighted in the beginning of that paragraph. So now that we've highlighted all this from passage glancing, we can go look at the question. And it talks about something that's widely accepted. And our first thing says the expansion of the universe is accelerating, which is exactly what we just read at the end of that paragraph. Continue to look through the other answers, but after looking through them, we see that A is the correct choice. For this question, the strategy is to read the question first and be able to find the answer in the text. So the question says accept. That word is in all capital, and so it stuck out. I underlined it, and then I looked at what it was asking me for. The theory provides a basis for all the following observations, except. And so from just glancing around at the thing, I find in the second paragraph that it gives a comprehensive explanation for the Big Bang Theory, including, and so it lists everything, and go through the list and cross them out in the answer choices. We see Hubble's laws included. We see large-scale structure included. We see cosmic microwave background included, but we do not see the University of Physical Law, and because of that, the answer is C. Our third strategy is about reading the passage as a whole. And again, not many people are going to tell you to do this, so time yourself right now. Pause the screen, see how long it takes you to read, and answer the question fully. Don't forget to take little notes out beside your readings, just in case you do have to look back to get a clear train of thought. So, the first thing I noticed after reading the entire first paragraph is that this paragraph is about the Big Bang origin. And so I went on and wrote that out beside it, and then I started reading the next paragraph. The next paragraph gives a comprehensive list off the bat. And so I went on and wrote what it explains, because this is about the phenomenon that are attributed to the Big Bang Theory. And also towards the end of that, you see the words two major assumptions. And so I wrote the word two major parts instead of actually writing out those assumptions just for the sake of time. The next thing I noticed is that there's an opposing view, and so I read through it, understand the information, and I just write it down just in case I can't find it later. Continuing on, I see that they talk about the cosmic microwave background radiation, and so I write part of what the Big Bang explains, because it goes back to the second paragraph where I wrote what it explains, because the C and B is part of that comprehensive list. Reading the next paragraph, you can see how they explain how the Big Bang is used to measure the age of the universe. And so I just write how to measure time. With the following paragraph, it's all about dark matter, and so I write the words dark matter out. And then I also go back up and write elements just beside some information that I did not see earlier, but I felt like could be important for the answer. Looking at the question, it wants to know how the age of the universe is found. And so, since this was a whole passage read, it should be pretty easy to go through, mark out answers, and know that the universe expansion rate is the answer, which is D. But I also highlighted this information just in case you forgot it, and we have our quick notes to find information like this. The next strategy was to read the first and last sentence of every paragraph. And so the first sentence I see here is just the Big Bang Theory explained, which is pretty self-explanatory since we've been reading through this passage quite a few times. And then since the last sentence of that paragraph didn't have much information, I just highlighted what the insufficient information was about. Looking at the next sentence, I wrote what it explains, how I did with whole passage, just because that entire sentence is very long and it has a comprehensive list with it as well. And again, the last sentence of that didn't have too much information, so I highlighted and underlined the most important parts of it. Looking at the first sentence of the next one, there's a person, time, and theory. And so this theory also is an opposing view, so I could have written that as well if you would like. For the end of that paragraph, it talks about the CMB, the cosmic microwave background, which is part of what it explains, and so it's just an elaboration. The beginning of the next one talks about the physical law of nature and the state of extreme density and temperature. And so since that was important, I underlined and wrote words beside it. Looking at the end of the paragraph, it gave a list, and so I underlined the entire thing and wrote out large clouds because the first two words of that sentence are giant clouds. And so the rest is just an explanation of those. Looking at the final paragraph, you can see that the first sentence is about dark matter, and then the last sentence is about the supernova that is attributed to dark energy's existence. So now we can go on and look at the passage and now we can look at the question and see what it wants. And it wants giant clouds. And so I go on and underline that because we wrote out large clouds. And I look at that information and it wants the elements in it. And it's all underlined. And so you can see hydrogen, helium, and lithium, which is A would be your answer. So our fifth strategy was about understanding the author and understanding what type of passage it is. So since there's not a bar above this, I will say that this passage was written by 5 Academy for practice ACT questions. And so that's a little context on the author and why it was written. But I'm going to leave this here, let y'all answer it, because this can be a trickier idea of putting yourself in the author's shoes. Whatever you think the answer is, leave it in the comments and we'll give you a like if you're right. Thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like these.